80% of partner programs fail in the first 90 days, not because they recruited bad partners, because they recruited partners before they were ready. And I'm going to show you exactly what to build before you contact a single partner and what we do for our portfolio clients. My name is Tanmay. I've closed over seven figures in sales. I've started working with other companies to start building up their partner programs. One, for example, has closed 2 enterprise deals in 14 days of signing on their first partner, right? So the stuff works. And so most founders skip step three. It's the one that actually determines whether partners close deals or just die on the vine. If you're either a founder, CRO, head of marketing, or head of partnerships, and you're building a partner program and want to avoid the mistakes that kill most partnerships, subscribe. I break down frameworks of the most successful clients that we have and also what's happening in the industry right now that's going to lead you guys to succeed. Now, when we're looking at actually what we do before day one of building a partner program, we get to lay the groundwork, right? So this is specifically what we think through and almost do and what the best partner programs actually kind of follow. So specifically, right, we have to build the foundation. Why are we even going for partners? What kind of partner types could we work with? And what does the ideal partner profile look like, right? So, when we look here, right, why partners? I mean, there's a plethora of reasons that we could use, right? Big word. Increase if there's an increasing cost of acquisition for direct sales, right? So your paid ads is higher, your SEO bidding is higher, your SDR costs are higher, right? Like it's going to be higher, and the more costs you have, the less profit you have, which is harder to scale. You want to bring into new markets, right? So breaking into a new market, especially when you're starting to scale up, is very, very difficult, especially if there's other players that you might not be a part. You might not either technically be able to compete with, or, I mean, objectively, or you just have more market share, more mind share. You need to pre-buy trust, and that you do that with partners. And if you want to add more value to sales conversations, like I know, for example, like, literally we're talking with a multi-billion-dollar firm who has a ventures arm, and they want to help us with their startups. One of the startups they just acquired, and they particularly want a really, really niche, like a super niche industry that the software kind of works in, and they want niche consultants. So they're like, hey, like we have tons of resellers. Right? We don't want like, all like, we don't want some random resellers. We want someone who's going to add value to the conversation. And so basically, what partners can add value to the sales conversation to help the customer outcomes, reduce customer churn, decrease time in sales cycle, right? And increase the valuation in the company if you're looking to sell, or even if increase valuation in company for when you're looking to raise money. And so when you define your partner strategy, right, kind of what I just touched on, why do we need partners? Geographic expansion, we can't cover all the territories. Vertical expertise, partners know industries more so better. Service to scale, post-sale portion, right? So implementations have support capacity. Sales capacity, where it's like you need more pipeline than we can generate. And technical integrations, where it's an ecosystem play, kind of like Zapier, where it's like, hey, like, they're not necessarily like the gold, but they're the shovel for the gold. If that makes sense, like if you follow the gold rush. And so specifically, what partners do we need, right? So based on your why, check which partners type fit, tech partners, right? And these are only 4. There might be more. They might be an affiliate shop, more like a lower ticket, more higher volume transaction. There's multiple types, right? I'm going to do a video around it, but use when you need ecosystem integrations. They bring technical capabilities, app store presence, and you need strong APIs/marketplaces. Service-less agency partners, use it when customers need implementation help, right? So services, and for them, they bring services revenue, implementation expertise, and you would need repeatable implementation methods that not only help you in your post-sale, but help the customers be a lot more sticky. And so when we look at resellers as our partners, you can't cover all territory segments, so there's coverage there's relationships there, and the pricing is much nicer from a margin perspective than doing just straight direct sales or paid ads or SEO, whatever not. And then we look at marketplace, right? You have a platform such as marketplace. I mean, they bring app ecosystem, user value, active marketplace, developer platform. And so if you're a company doing $1 million plus in ARR and want to skip this manual work, this is literally the framework our team at the Revenue Protocol follows to help companies generate 7 to 8 figures of revenue from partnerships, while also saving them a bunch of time and money trying to figure out what to do. We work with companies all the way from $1 million to multi-billion-dollar corporations. If you're interested to work with us, complete the form below to apply, and if we're a fit, we'll reach out. So when we look at that ideal partner profile, so company attributes that you want to look for is the company size, right? The geography, vertical focus, customer base size, growth stage. It should honestly be like matching you a tiny bit above or maybe even below, right? Because the thing is, if you go for the major players and you don't have a really good product market fit, or you have product market fit, but objectively, right? Like there's some bigger players that that some of these other kind of bigger partners work with. If it's supposedly like a reseller, right? Like you can work with them, but they're not necessarily going to push you. So you got to understand where you are in the chess table. And so we look at customer overlap. Do their customers match your ICP? Can they give access to decision makers, average customer size? And so, sometimes it might just be like hey, like this is more so thinking on like the reseller side, like, hey, do they have access to our ICP, or are they going to push us deals, right? But if you look at a marketplace, it's a procurement vehicle, aka it makes it easier for people to buy. So for them, it's a lot easier because then they can get extra credits or discounts or stuff like that. So with the capabilities of them, yeah, it's great to partner, right? And it's like obviously every single person is going to want leads, but there's more partners that you can get than just leads, and sometimes you can't expect leads from some partners, right? So what tech skills do they have? How are they going to help you in the sales process, either pre or post sale? How do they sell? Direct, channel, online? What's the support, marketing? When we look at partnership readiness, existing partnerships, do they partner successfully? Partner program maturity. Have they experienced a partner program before? Worked with an OEM or a vendor before? Research dedicated to partnerships. And so also get the financials, right? Like, what is their revenue potential? Like, you got to treat them like a salesperson, but also treat them like a customer aspect, like client facing or partner facing, they're a customer. But when they're actually, when they're actually, when they're actually, but when you're working with them, you want to treat them like a salesperson a little bit, right? So when we look at the culture fit as well, like, hey, listen, like you got to make sure like you guys are aligned, right? You don't want any sort of bad beef or anything like that. And so, I mean, particularly, right, like these are just examples of like what you would want, or what they would necessarily want or care about, right? So they want more leads, market intel, referrals, service partners, service ops, customer referrals, co-marketing, and leads, target list, deal rich, right? And so the overarching thing that I want to emphasize is how does this all help us solve our customer's problem? This is the number one question. And if you pick away anything from this video, this is the only thing I want you to pick up. How does this all how does this all help us solve our customer's problem? Because if it does not solve your customer's problem, there is no point. And so look at step two, right? CRM set up for partner tracking. And by the way, right, when you build your MVP partner infrastructure, like the reason I put MVP is like, I don't want you guys spending a bunch of random time just like, building a partner portal with like all these different certifications, resources, like before you do anything, right? I want you to outline it and what you're going to do, right? You don't have to necessarily build it right now, right? But I want you to at least outline it, because if you don't outline it, it's going to get kind of confusing a little bit. So what direction you need, what direction of where to go. So, I mean, these are fields that like ideally you'd have or you build simultaneously while you're, kind of recruit and get partners. But, basic info, contract status, activation status, pipeline revenue, treating like a salesperson, right? Engagement metrics, reciprocity gift. And this is the concept of like, hey, like when you give something to someone, they're going to feel indebted to you. And so that's why a lot of partner programs really go on the basis like, hey, I suggest like, hey, if you can give them leads, they're going to feel more indebted to give back, right? And if you give them deals, they're more indebted to give deals back. And so the partnership goals and then tool recommendations, just some couple of tools that you want to use, right? But this I will not get too hung up on, but it's what we help with when we work with some of our portfolio clients. We've been through this process before, so it's easy for us to kind of get this done for people. But specifically, right, like, these are important things, but these are not what you should be focusing on day one. You should be thinking about what you would do. And so create these templates, before recruiting, and these are pretty easy to meet. I will not say you to do all of them, actually. I say you probably got to do like these two before you start recruiting, because you can do it as you go, right? And when you go and you learn and you adjust, that's just how it's going to work, right? But a lot of these simultaneously, when you start recruiting, when you have spare time, you should get these done. And so, yeah, like your partnership agreement, technical spec, legal documentation is very, very important. A deal reg form, so they can identify how can they actually submit things to you and get properly attributed for that. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty simple. And so when we look at actually assembling who's going to be handling partnerships, right? Like it says required, right? You could be, let's say, like a $1 million shop, right? And so I'm talking with a company that is just one vice president of business development and marketing and a co-founder, and then they're not as deep staff wise, and so you might not have the capability to hire on a partner manager, but right, you can probably handle this yourself, and you only need a certain capacity. So I mean, the idea is like doing partnerships is hard. It's hard. So, I mean, recruiting, onboarding partners, deliver training certification, co-sell partner deals, run weekly pipeline reviews, track metric support, handle partner support. Ideal case scenario, right? And so these are typically what we see in the industry, at least in the US market. I mean, the number one reason why partner programs fail is under resourcing, and that's real. You need a dedicated partner manager, not sales does it in their spare time. Otherwise, it'll just never work. Right. So ideally there, I mean, we have startups who want to kind of test out the waters first and see get some traction first, which is, why they come to us. But like I will tell you, like realistically, it's better to prong on the two and leverage a service like ours for more so like revenue operations and a partner manager be the client facing person because this is a relationship game as well, right? Like I like to preach on this channel, like, hey, you don't have to be, say it in a nice way. You don't always got to be kissing butt. You can just also be, it's not always about kissing butt. I mean, you can always, it's not always about schmoozing. You got to also make money as well, but schmoozing is part of the game and you just got to play it. And so, and when we talk about executive sponsor, right, this can be kind of confusing. What this means is that, supposedly like you're not the head of, like if you have a separate head of partnerships, right, like you're going to need access to C-suite executives who make decisions to approve things, remove blockers, help be brought into conversations for these higher strategic partners. Because, when you leverage in a higher stakeholder from your company, if you're someone who's not already a CEO or CRO, then it's going to be a very powerful look when you start recruiting partners, especially these bigger strategic players. And then, depending how technical your product, technical support, and marketing support as well. And so when we look at this, right, the minimum viable team is, partner manager plus executive sponsor. The recommended team is partner manager plus executive sponsor plus an SC plus marketing. I mean, like you'll see literally more mature organizations who's eventually move over to the partner only channel, who eventually move to the partner only acquisition model. They choose to have teams like this, and it's more expanded out form. So we define your economic model, right? So, I mean, these are just some examples of the four partnership mentions that we had. So specifically, right, your ISP partnership economics. You know, when we look at ISVs, right? So, I mean, revenue share, there really isn't. They sell their products, not yours. What they get is more so API access, marketplace listing, co-marketing opportunities, referral fees. And so what you get would be, integrations, which is the ecosystem value, referrals from, ISVs to you, marketplace credibility. I mean, and just an example, right? Like if an ISV refers a customer to you, you close a 30K deal. They get an X amount of referral fee. And if you refer them to someone else, you get goodwill. And I know from a dollar perspective, you're like, okay, why would I do it if I don't get money? I'm telling you, like, if you, like the law of reciprocity, if you give as much as you can, you will get 100-fold if you ask back. And so that's the kind of mentality that you should have when you're doing partnerships. And I believe in just a business in general. So when we look at service partners, right? So, keeps 100% of services revenue. You get 0% of services revenue. They keep it all. And so what service partners get is opportunities, right? So certification and training, co-selling support, lead flow. And so what you would get ideally is referrals and implementation capacity, which is a huge, huge thing, especially in the post-sale cycle where like customers don't like the timeline for people to feel the most amount of regret is going to be literally 48 to 72 hours within the sale, maybe even like a week after the sale, right? Because that's when they're valuing the decision. That's where the doubt and creep comes in. You have to reaffirm and establish authority and frame, be like, hey, you asked to help solve this problem. We agree we can help you solve this problem. You put your money down and took a risk on us. Now we're double, tripling, quadrupling down to show you that like, hey, we're here for you. And that's what risky people want. Because a lot of the time in these higher market stakes games, like a lot of the products are very similar. Unless you have a brand new net new ocean product, yeah, I'm sure that's there. But more often than not, the customers that stay the stickiest are the people who have the best post-sale experience. Because not only do they feel validated, but they feel connected, like, hey, this person's gonna take care of me. And so when you have that open dialogue and that comfort, people are gonna want to stay. And so that's what the really big value of like implementation, where like, they could help implement your solution, right? And so you might give up some services revenue, but long term, you might be able to actually get more revenue from that because the customer is more sticky. And so we look at resellers, right? Like, so examples of some metrics, deal registration bonuses. what they get. I mean, it's pretty standard, right? And so what you would get specifically is geographic access, vertical coverage, sales capacity, and customer relationships with the partner. Ideally, the relationships that are pre-bought or pre-built trust, so you don't have to necessarily build the trust on your own, right? It's coming from like a third vetted party. And so we look at marketplace partnership economics. Customer would pay marketplace partner directly. You get, a certain percentage platform fee, or no revenue share, and whatever the listing fee is, right? And so they get user discovery, credibility, capabilities. You get the value of the ecosystem, right? So more apps equals stickier platform fee revenue, user retention. And so this all connects down to like you really, let's fix this. As you can tell, we're very raw here. You want to document your economics before recruiting, right? And so again, I really want to emphasize like label out your strategy as much as you can, but don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. If you do this yourself and you're brand new, you can probably expect this to take like maybe like 3 to 4 weeks. If so, you're someone who's vetted, you can probably get this done within 1 to 2 weeks because there's frameworks you can apply from, you can pull from. But I mean, commissions as margin rates, deal registration numbers, referral fees, payment terms, minimum thresholds, right? And so when you create your measurement framework, what are some metrics that show success? Partners recruited, partner signed, train completion rate, time to first deal, partner engagement score, any sort of lagging indicators, right? So you recruit the partner, great. How many of them are actually activated? And that's the biggest thing where it's like, everyone has partners, but it's really hard to get to actually want to sell for you. And that comes from an activation issue. Partner source opportunities, influence pipeline, partner close revenue, partner ROI. And so when we look at individual partner health scores, this will help you determine like, hey, like, what are the engagements, the attendance, the response times, kind of like, again, like a customer, right? Like you engage, if you're doing a coaching program and, you want to track accountability, you want to track, hey, are they doing their numbers? This is going to help you understand what's happening and what's happening in your program, the data you can track, so you can either double or triple down the partners who are committed to actually investing in you and your product. Because the last thing you want to do is invest the same amount of effort to someone who's not willing to. When there's other person, if company A is doing everything under the sun to try to sell your product, and company B is not, and you give them equal attention, it's not fair for them. But it's not fair for company A, but it's also not fair to you either because you don't want to waste your time. So double, triple down on what's working and keep going. And so when we look at the dashboard template, right, it'd be like partners, how many are signed, active, activation rate, how many have churned, the opportunities, total value, average size, win rate. Then we look at the revenue, right? And what are closed this month, this quarter, this year? What's the growth? What are the top performers? Who are at risk? And then from there, you can justify and you can start making movements when you start bringing on a more mature partner ecosystem. How can we continually optimize and build? And so now, how do you actually build your list? How do you actually find the ideal partners? And like, I'll tell you, like, the number one source, and I have a lot of customers push back on this sometimes. It's like, hey, we don't interview customers. I'll be honest, like you don't have to, but do you want the best possible data? Then you might have to. And so, who else are you working with in this space? What consulting partners do you trust? Who have similar tools for you? What other solutions do you use? Right? Like, what business problems do you have? What is your overarching goal that you want to get to? Right. So how does our solution fit into like a bigger, longer term play, and how does it fit into a bigger toolbox that you're working with? And so when you find out that information of what other vendors are there, what other business problems are they having, where do they want to go, you're able to map out then what kind of partners can you use to help the customer get there, either your current customers or break into new customers using that same kind of market research. And so if you don't want to do it, I mean, use your sales call recordings, right? Map out business problems your ICP already has. Find the ecosystem problems, like I mentioned, and the ecosystem solutions they already solved to have those problems. And leverage AI research with specific business context and customer footprint data. I mean, be very careful because it'll spit out some stuff with no context and, it'll hurt you. So the more context you have, the better. And you will likely know your industry more, but I would really be careful. And then when we look at, the ecosystem mapping, right? So you can find ISV partners, service partners, resellers, right? Just based on simple Google searches or browsing app stores or searches or AI research. And we've got a competitive intelligence. I mean, this is actually a really great key to see what your competitors who might be a little bit ahead of you are actually doing. And I'm not saying necessarily like, hey, you have to rip and replace their exact partner program. But what you can do is like, hey, like if like they're getting good returns, maybe you might be missing the activation rate, right? If they're getting good returns, right? Like rip it, copy it. I mean, Apple doesn't. Why can't you? And so we look at the fourth method, review any inbound partner inquiries, backlog, evaluate against your IPP, prioritize best fits. This would be more so people who are already getting a lot of traction in inbound partner inquiries. Do they want a partner? So if you're not there yet, don't worry about it. But I mean, this is what kind of what it could look like. What your target partner list could look like. What kind of partner it is. What's the partner name? What kind of partner? Where are they based out of? You know, how much of a fit are they compared to your ideal customer profile? Why them? What's the priority for you? And then what's the email, right? And so then you give different levels. And so when you start building out your lead list, kind of like I always love to compare this to direct sales because it's kind of like direct sales where it's like, hey, these are better fit for our solution. These are better fit to solve our customer problems. These are better partners to solve our customer problems that also are work like a jigsaw piece with us to get the best possible outcome. Like that's what we want to go for. And so you got to prepare your pitch, right? Like I cannot tell how much like it's frustrating, when I was a sales rep where it's like, hey, like, you know, you think partners should work with you just because because you have a sort of great product. I mean, not necessarily, right? Like you have to really fundamentally find out why they should work with you. And it's either going to be like, I'll tell you, like, it's either going to be, hey, they'll get more market share. Like partners only care about themselves. You only care about yourself. If you're the smarter business owner, you make sure that you care more about them than you care about you. Take care of yourself first, but make sure you also care about them as well, and you speak in a way that talks about how you can take care of them. And so that'd either be helping partners get more market share in a brand new territory, right? And that helps you bring a new market, get revenue. If is it going to help them get more implementation fees, right? So if like, hey, like if you refer us, right, you're already with a partner in there. Like you take the services fees, you help with the onboarding, you take the additional revenue. For them, they might get sort of like a very small percentage of the sale itself, but maybe they make most of the money from implementation. And so like those are examples, right? Like with when you look at the opportunity, right? Why partner with us? And this is something that you're going to have to customize per person, but this was a good framework to make overarching as well for internal use of like, hey, like why partner for us that you give to someone who's running partnerships to really look at, right? So what do they get? What we provide, success stories, partner criteria, next steps. Like if you give this one pager, right, and you also turn this into a video, which I will break down another video how like, listen, like a lot of activation is crap because a lot of people just have a bunch of PDFs in their downloads file, which I mean we're all guilty of. People retain better on video after doing a short quiz after, but basically, you make a written version. You can use leverage AI. Hey, this is the context of the company. See how they're a fit based on our internal data. Where they could play, and adjust this document from there and send it. This is the kind of framework you want to think through. And so finally, last step, I mean, you pre-launch a checklist, right? So for contacting any partners, you verify, hey, do you know what you're doing, right? So why are you even doing partners in the first place? What types, what's the ideal partner profile? Is everyone aligned executive-wise, like where it's like, hey, you won't have to get a lot of delay from like your CEO or CRO. Cross-functional buy-in, right? So partnerships is not just a sales and marketing endeavor, and I really want to push this. It's a product endeavor, it's a legal endeavor, it's a customer success endeavor. It's so many things. It's your entire organization. And so if they're not bought in, then it's going to be very difficult to get things done. Because your CEO might say one thing, but if your legal department kind of drags their feet, then like it takes time, right? And so we look at the infrastructure, right? CRM fields are created and tested, right? Partner portal built. Again, I said this is necessarily optional for like before you send it, but I would really suggest like, hey, if you have the bandwidth to do it quickly. If it's going to take you some time, just do it as you go. And then we look at the team, right? Know who's going to handle partnerships, who's going to be the head. The economics, how it's going to work, payment wise, legal drafts, how you're going to measure it for success, right? Because you can be successful and not even know it, or you could be doing horrible and not even know it. And the more data you have, the more you can be more particular about how you can track and actually get better about which partners to focus on or which partners to cut off and stuff like that. And so look at the pitch, right? Use AI agents to kind of help design that one page or a pitch deck system. So this was very all encompassing, and these 8 steps specifically will literally, and these 8 specific steps are the make or break for this video. These 8 specific steps are exactly what we go through. These 8 steps are exactly what you will have to go through before you start your partner program. And if you do not do these, you will struggle a lot when building. Now, To understand what it looks like from day one of actually starting your partner program, and we're looking at recruitment, what the other factors of what it looks like on day one. What is day one? Now, if you're curious about saying what day one looks like from the recruitment perspective, from the onboarding perspective, if you're curious about what day one of your partner program will look like, how to actually get started and start generating partner opportunities and getting more partners on board, watch this video above.